Good evening. The prosecution has now made its closing argument in the closely watched and highly charged trial of George Zimmerman. He's been charged with second-degree murder in the death of Trayvon Martin, but that charge became an issue in court today as the jury has now been allowed to consider a lesser charge of manslaughter. The parents of the defendant and the dead teenager were all in court together for the first time since opening statements. As the final moments are now getting close here, the jury could have this case as soon as tomorrow. NBC's Ron Mott starts us off tonight from Sanford, Florida. Ron, good evening.
Brian, good evening to you. A hush fell over this courtroom as the prosecutor began his closing remarks. Those arguments went on for more than 2 hours, and at one point it looked as though he got a real reaction from George Zimmerman himself.
A teenager is dead. He is dead through no fault of his own. He is dead because another man made assumptions.
The state started its closing today in a less explosive fashion than it opened 17 days ago.
Punks. These they always get away.
But made the same argument about Trayvon Martin's killing to the all-women jury.
The man who is guilty of second-degree murder.
That George Zimmerman should go to prison for profiling, following, confronting, and shooting the unarmed teenager last year.
Why does this defendant get out of the car if he thinks that Trayvon Martin is a threat to him? Why? Why? Because he's got a gun. He's got the equalizer.
With Zimmerman's and Martin's parents all in court for the first time since day one,
They always get away.
the prosecutor said Zimmerman sized up Martin as a criminal during a call to police.
I would submit to you that he uttered it under his breath, and that itself indicates ill will and hatred.
And for a second straight day,
He's saying that armpits. How does he get the gun out?
the state's life-size foam dummy was thrown into the mix.
My firearm on my right side hip.
You see where he's pointing to? Did you see where he's grabbing? Where he's got his firearm?
With the prosecutor questioning Zimmerman's account of his struggle with Martin.
This was never an easy second-degree murder case for the prosecution. It seemed to get more difficult every day of trial. While the closing argument seemed effective, it may not be enough for the crime of murder.
Earlier, sparks flew as both sides sparred over adding lesser charges of manslaughter and third-degree felony murder.
Doesn't the court realize this was a trick by the state?
The defense complained about getting notice of the third-degree murder charge just this morning.
Just when I thought this case couldn't get any more bizarre. The state is seeking third-degree murder based on child abuse?
Martin was 17 when he was killed. The judge denied the third-degree murder charge, but ruled the jury may consider manslaughter in lieu of second-degree murder. Zimmerman's attorney objected to any lesser charge.
And you are in agreement with that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Zimmerman has pleaded not guilty, saying he shot Martin in self-defense after being attacked.
The state has charged him with second-degree murder. They should be required to prove it if they can. And if they can't prove it, then that is the failing of the prosecution.
Now, tomorrow morning, the defense will make its closing arguments, followed by a state rebuttal. And unless something unforeseen happens, Brian, the jury is expected to be charged by the afternoon.
Ron Mott has been covering throughout Sanford, Florida, starting us off tonight. Ron, thanks. And at this point, let's bring in our NBC News legal analyst, Lisa Bloom, a veteran attorney who has handled some high-profile cases herself. Lisa, in your line of work, these are called the lesser charges. And does the introduction of manslaughter as an option for this jury mean, by definition, the prosecution has less than full confidence in the case they've just made?
Well, certainly the side that's willing to take an all-or-nothing approach is the side that's more confident, and that's the defense. On the prosecution side, they'll be happy with a compromise verdict of manslaughter if they can get it. I think if they get manslaughter or second-degree murder, they're going to consider that a win.
All right, Lisa Bloom will be keeping in close touch with this. Again, the end of this case is rapidly approaching.